So we have a big day for you today. Some of you missed Dana's opening, but we have this workshop. It's a workshop we're super excited about. Those that have attended Innovation Summits know that we change it up every year and how we do this. We've never tried a 200 some odd person workshop. Juliana and Franz have told us that they have, so we feel confident that this should work, though they said they are going to try some new things on us as well. So we're going to move into our workshop now. I also want to mention Juliana Echeverry. She is a strategic planner at the Medici Group. She is going to be working with Franz on this exercise. So with that, please welcome back Franz and Juliana.
Thank you. Oh, my clicker. Good morning. I'm excited to be working with you this morning. It was fun time chatting with you about the Medici effect yesterday. Now I'm going to see if I can get my tech right here. All right. Good morning. I have about 2 hours with you. What I'd like to do over these 2 hours is I'd like to take all those ideas that I talked about yesterday, and I'd like you to sort of put them to work within your situation, either here in Juneau, wherever you're coming from. And in order to do that, I want you to work together in teams, in various constellations. It's not quite as full to Brian's point. And so we'd had designed kind of teams for you to sit at specific tables, but it is more important that there's a certain number of people at each table. And so I'm first going to ask, right off the bat, is there any table here that has less than 3 people? Like there's 2 people at this table. There's 2 right there. Yeah. So I'd like you to join some other table. It can be anyone. And yes, we have run, the Medici Group works with clients all over the world and helping them develop new ideas and to innovate those ideas. And occasionally we do workshops. We tend to do them in groups of 20 or 30, but sometimes we increase the size. Sometimes it's like 1,000, which is a bit more than we have here. And today, I'm about to introduce a number of things that we actually haven't done before in a large group. So we're experimenting here as well. I'm very excited about it. Now, so now when I look around here, we have a number of tables. Of course, this area here is completely empty. Good, because I'm going to hang out here. Okay. Let me see. Anything else that we want to do before we get started? I think we're good here. I'm assuming that we're going to see people come in throughout the as the morning goes on. If we can just direct them to one of the existing tables, but sooner or later that might be overflowing as well. So we just have to try to portion it out as we move forward on these 2 hours. Okay, great. There's going to be another person here as well. Yeah. All right. So one of the things that people start asking after they've sort of seen this keynote, sort of saying, okay, well, look, I like these ideas. I like what it was you were talking about. And I got a lot of great comments. I say, thank you. I appreciate that. But then the next question becomes, but what do I do with this now? How do I take this? How do I operationalize it, if one is sort of more business-oriented? Or how do I just get something done? Might be the other way people express it. And what are some of the sort of the core tips for how to think about actually accomplishing that? And so the first thing I'm going to mention, before we get into anything else, is if you recall, I talked about Serena Williams and how she plays a very particular type of game, tennis. And the rules of tennis are kind of set. But for most of us, that is not true. Unless we're sort of playing tennis or golf or something like that, we're in a world where the rules are constantly changing. But we often forget about that. We often forget that the rules can change. And so the first piece that I just want to explore here is this notion that They should always look for opportunities to change the rules of the game. And I'm calling it out explicitly because usually we accept the rules as they're given to us. This is how it's been done, and that's just how it is. And that's okay, because then you're gonna figure out how to get it done within that. But sooner or later, somebody says, why does it have to be done that way? Is it really true? And that is when, if you ask yourself that question, you will actually begin to see opportunities where you can change the rules of the game. I'm going to give you an example of what I mean here. One of our clients over many years has been Nike. And if you think about their business model and how that works for Nike, and I'm going to simplify it dramatically, it kind of works something like this. You create products, and hopefully they're great products, but then you have to promote them. And the way you promote these products, it's really a branding and marketing game. And what you do is you identify athletes or teams, and you sort of decide to sponsor these athletes and teams, and then you hope that these athletes and teams are successful, right? So, like Nike decides to sponsor Tiger Woods, and he's super successful and crushing it, and that's great for Nike. And then they sponsor, say, Tiger Woods, and it's not so successful, and it's not so great for Nike, and it's like the opposite. And sometimes they're really lucky. This is the picture of the four semifinalist teams of the college football league, basically, where they bring together sort of seemingly the best teams from various bowls. And all four teams are sponsored by Nike. Are you kidding me? That's like super lucky. It's great. Now, this strategy has a big flaw, though, which is that it's expensive. You have to pay a lot of money for these athletes. So LeBron, when he did a deal with Nike about 2 years ago, they're paying him $1 billion, which is a lot of money. Okay? It's true. Ronaldo, arguably the best soccer player in the world, they're paying him $1 billion too. So what are you supposed to do if you want to compete with Nike, but you don't have the same type of cash? So another client of ours is Under Armour. Excuse me. And he said, well, why do we have to accept the standard definition of what an athlete is? I mean, what if an athlete doesn't have to be a football player? What if an athlete can be a ballet dancer? Ta-dam. So this is Misty Copeland. She's the principal dancer for the American Ballet Theater. She's the first black female principal dancer of the American Ballet Theater. And they created a whole line based on her. They created this ad. I'm going to show you this ad that went viral all over the world very, very quickly. Can we have the volume, please?
Dear candidate, thank you for your application to our ballet academy. Unfortunately, you have not been accepted. You lack the right feet, Achilles tendons, turnout, torso length, and bust. You have the wrong body for ballet, and at 13, you are too old to be considered.
It's great. And they paid her less than $1 billion. Like, they did. But they have a whole line based on her now, along with Steph Curry. The assumption is that you have to pay an athlete tons of money if you define an athlete the way it's always been defined. But what if you could change those rules? What if you could change the rules around us? And we can. We're not playing tennis. We're allowed to question the rules sort of set us up. And so the first exercise, it's going to be a very quick one before I actually get into what we can do here in Juneau. I want you to take a moment to challenge some of the assumptions you make about a business or the world around you or something like that. So I'm calling this sort of a reverse, an assumption reversal. We're going to just do a couple of minutes of this, but this is to set you up for the more elaborate exercise that's going to follow. And here's how it kind of works. Whenever you sort of are imagining that there's a particular thing that has to get done, or there's a particular opportunity, or there's a particular challenge, ask yourself what assumptions you're making about that challenge or opportunity, and then reverse them. So if you remember, yesterday I spoke about Eastgate, which is this building in Harare. And the assumption is that if you have a building in Zimbabwe, it's going to have air conditioning. But what if we reverse that assumption? You get what? Yell out if you want to. No air conditioning, right? No air conditioning. And then if you do that, you might start looking at other types of solutions. People so often say that we need to think outside the box. But the message I was giving yesterday is that even better, we should try to think inside somebody else's box and try to make those connections. So that's how they combined that with term ecology. So we're going to do that real quick. And here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to work within each table for this. In a second, I'm going to actually do something about your team composition. But I want you to imagine we're going to do that with a restaurant. So what are some common assumptions that people make about restaurants? Let's say that you want to create an innovative new restaurant. You say, well, here are some basic assumptions. One is that restaurants have menus, right? Another basic assumption is that restaurants charge money for food, at least if you want to be profitable. And a third common assumption about restaurants is that they indeed serve food. Okay. Now, what happens if we reverse the first one? Yell out, please. No menus. That's right. Yes. Yeah. Do not charge money for food. And you go, but it needs to be profitable. And the last one, right, is that you serve no food. So here's what I want you to do. I want those of you that are kind of like, if I draw a line down here, and imagine you belong to a table that's on this side of the line, I want you to explore the first one. Come up with some innovative restaurants that have no menus. Do not say buffet. Okay, so then we have, let's imagine this line from here to over here. You guys take the second one. Restaurants do not charge money for food. Okay, so come up with profitable restaurants that do not charge money for food. And then the last one over here, you guys get the easy one. Restaurants that serve no food. And we have to come up with some interesting restaurants that serve no food. All right? Work together, get started now. So let's start over here. Restaurants have no menus. Somebody raise their hands. Share an idea they came up with. Yes?
Your waiter or waitress asks for an emotional cue so they can develop something therapeutic.
An emotional cue? Wait, like what? Wait. like, I haven't heard that one before, actually, and I've done this a few times. Right. So, what, like what?
Like, at the simple question, how are you feeling today? And you have to be completely honest, and then they develop something that will nurture your feelings.
That's great.
We were being creative.
Thank you. Thank you for being first, offering up, and I love that idea. One more from here. Anybody else want to share?
It would be a restaurant that would be attached to a grocery store with, so there'd be an endless pantry and chefs trained in many different disciplines, so they cook whatever you want.
Whoa. Wait, so it's just a pantry, you walk in and it's just like, I want these things, and...
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Round of applause for that as well. What about over here? Do not charge money for food. Anyone? Oh, there's a hand over here. Yeah.
So we came up with you pay for the experience on a subscription base or event base.
On a subscription base. So, like, what would that look like?
Want to explain?
more of like a monthly, you pay one price and you can go to the restaurant as many times as you
I
want.
see, yeah.
But you're not really paying for that food. You're just paying for the subscription for the food.
Got it. Excellent. Thank you very much. Round of applause there as well. And then let me go over here for the last one. Serves no food.
So we had the community pantry model as well, but I guess one idea we had was a virtual reality training kitchen, so you could have people train their chefs and their front host staff, but it'd actually not be serving any real food.
You just get to virtually eat it.
You get to virtually
It's a great
serve it and learn
diet.
how
I
to
think
eat
it's a
it.
great dieting, like, thing. Anybody else here? Yes, last one, and then.
I got you.
It's BYOF.
Bring your own food.
And we sell you booze.
Thank you very much. Okay, applause all around. I appreciate it. All right, so we loosened up a little bit. Now, interestingly, what I was going to say is, what was interesting about this is I saw you guys dig straight into this particular challenge. How many of you, and it seems fairly easy for you as well when you did it. How many of you are in the restaurant business? It's like 1, 2, 3, okay. Because, one of the things that is intriguing about this is it seems very straightforward to do it when you're dealing with somebody else's business. But then somebody starts talking about yours, what you do. Oh, but you could do it this way. And instantly, no, you don't understand. See, no. This is why that doesn't work. This is why it won't play. The assumptions we make about our own work are the toughest to reverse because we buy into so dramatically the logic of it. So how do we enhance the chances of doing that? In order to sort of ask ourselves, how can we take what we know and maybe add a different perspective to it? It helps to know what we know. And here's what I'm going to ask you to do next. So the first thing actually I'm going to ask you to do is I did some table shuffling when we started. What's intriguing about this is that I believe, if this is still true, that in this room, there's a table. Is there a table that has like all guys and a table that has all women? I'm just curious. It's a table, all guys, all women. Intriguing, considering yesterday I spent quite a bit of time. I mean, there's like 3 words that I wanted people to remember from yesterday. It wasn't necessarily termites and bikinis. It was diversity drives innovation. Can we make a switch? Can some of you in this table head down to that table? And let's do a switch now over the next 15 seconds. You're timed. See, 3 women decided to go down, 1 guy. Is this what is this indication of? All right, give them a round of applause for that. Thank you, I appreciate that. Now, one second thing, another piece. You have sheets of paper at your table like this, and I'm going to want you to work on these sheets of paper, but I'm going to make another adjustment. Is there anybody here who now has a table with 6 or more people? Raise your hands. 6 or more people. Just raise your hands. If you have 6 or more people, here's what I'd like you to do. I'd like you to split your table into 2 teams. Do that over the next 10 seconds. So it could be right down the middle, but create 2 teams. Make them as diverse as you can if you get that chance to do that. And I want each team to have their own sheet. All right, thank you. One other thing, by the way, because we're doing this over such a space here, what's likely to happen soon is there's going to be a lot of conversation, and then because we're going to keep the pace high, I'm going to want to interrupt this conversation. But it's really rude to say, shut up. I don't like saying it, So instead, I'm going to say thank you, which means shut up, okay? So that's how we're going to make this work. Is that okay? Yes, and it's okay to actually speak back here loudly, Juno fashion like yesterday. I heard you yell out things then. Okay, great. So we now have tables that have 6 or more people, basically are in 2 teams. And here's what I'm going to ask you to do. I want you to map out within each team your work, hobbies, affiliations, family, interests. And I'm going to walk you through how to do this. It's not complicated, but I want to make sure we take it step by step. The first thing that I want each team to do is to, on this sheet of paper, write something in the middle of it. And in this case, I want you to write Juno. Do that now.
Do it with a marker.
Blank sheet of paper. So the blank sheet of paper. And do it with a marker.
Hello. Everybody should have pens and markers on their table. So for this exercise, please, please, please use a marker.
That's great. Thank you. And you will have markers on the table. Hand those out now so everybody has a marker within your team.
Anyone need markers?
And here's what I want you to do next. Each person on that team, I want you to draw a line from Juno and then write out your name like this. So Jenny, Adam, Ian, Isabel, obviously if your names are different than those, write those names.
So feel free to rearrange the table so that everybody can write on the map.
Yeah, it's okay to stand up if you want to do that. It'll make it, well, we'll make it easier.
Anyone need markers?
But you guys have 2 teams here. You do, yeah, perfect.
Anyone need markers? You guys good? You guys need markers?
Yeah.
All right. Anyone not cleared on this step? Good. It's going to get a little bit more complicated. All right, so then, here's what I want you to do individually. I want you to draw what we call a resource map individually. And what goes into this resource map? Well, it's going to depend on who you are. It's to be a reflection of you, an accumulation of your work, your affiliations, your family life. Maybe there's a school. Maybe there is a hobby. For instance, Jenny might have Chamber of Commerce might be her job. Backpacking might be a hobby. Fishing might be another one. Tourism board might be something that she volunteers at. And Glacier Valley, I looked it up, it's a school here. And so she might have her kids in Glacier Valley. That could be what Jenny looks like. But why stop there? You can keep going. And fishing, and I like fishing, so maybe the other things that pops up. So you go deeper. Maybe she thinks of oceans, which is a broad term. Halibut, because that's what we can like to catch. A boat, because that's what's needed. You can go with a boat. You got tidal shifts. The tides shifting, which is like enormous here. Like 18, I saw it yesterday. It's like, wow. That's a lot. In Sweden, it's like a foot.
How was that? It's so fun. Yeah.
And a small one, like a hobbit foot or something. And then charter. Yeah. And then we do that for all the others as well. Map out the things that you can think of that relate to who you are as a person, the full diversity of you as a person. If you're overthinking it, if you're going, should I write this or not? Write it. I mean, like, this is not, you're not going to be tested on it. Yeah, I just want you to map out, and over time now, we're going to start seeing these maps grow beautifully in different colors as representations of who you are, what your work is, what your hobbies are, what your relationships are, your affiliations, any associations that you're part of, anything else that sort of make up who you are. Any questions about this? Well, in that case, I would recommend that you get started. Go ahead.
Okay, cool. Yeah, it's there if you need it.
All right, thank you. Thank you. Now we're going to get to the next phase. And here's where the experiment comes in. We tend to construct these type of exercises so they scale with size. And this exercise, we always kept at a small group level. This is the first time really trying it at even something larger than a group of 30. So I'm curious to see how this is going to go, which as well, and you should be too. So here's what we're going to do. I want to ask someone in each team, one person right now, to stand up in each team. Stand up. Okay? All right. Now, does Katniss Everdeen mean anything to you? Because there's a Hunger Games element that's going to come on. I'm kidding. Okay. I'm kidding.
Volunteer as tribute.
Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take a pen, put it in your hand, and I want you to draw a circle on the map to the person who is to the left of you. Don't do it yet. A circle on the map to the person who's to the left of you. For some of you, in those that I've split in half, that person might not be to the left of you, it might actually be on the other side of the table. Are you following those of you that are on the mini teams? So you're always working within your team. Okay? For the rest of you, it's going to be the person who's to the left of you. But if I split a table in half, I just want to make sure that we're clear on that. You're all working on this map now that you're drawn together. You have a map that you're drawn together with teammates. I want you to draw something that is intriguing or interesting to you. Something you'd like to know more about that you don't necessarily know that much about at all. And I want you to draw a circle around that item to the person who is to the left of you on that person's map. Okay, so if this is Isabel's holding the pen, and she says, I want to draw something. I'm going to draw a circle around Jenny's map. And what I want to draw a circle on is halibut, because I actually don't even know what it is. So then I will draw a circle around halibut. So that's what I want all you to do right now. Draw a circle around something that interests you or intrigues you that you want to know more about to the person who's to the left of you. Do it now. All right. Thank you.
So for now.
Thank you. That's not the complicated part. Okay? All right, so here's what I want you to do next. The person on whose sort of a resource map you drew a circle on, i.e. Jenny in this case, and I want the version of your Jenny on your team to explain to the rest of your team what this item is. It's going to do that in about 20 to 30 seconds. What is this thing that has just been circled? Explain it to the whole team. Do it now. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. So, hold on. Thank you. Shut up! Okay, great. Because you're actually going to get now another minute for the rest of the team. So you spent a little bit of time introducing what this is, this item. I want the rest of the team now. You're going to get about a minute to ask questions, to go deeper. You might want an opportunity to understand it a bit more. If in this you might see, wait a minute, I didn't even know we had this, but this could be useful over here. You can maybe make a connection to something that you're working on, that's something you're aware of. This conversation can play out in a few different ways. It might just go deeper, to probe deeper, but it might also be that you listening to this person on your team right now talking about what this item is, that you yourself are gaining some new insight into. There could be an opportunity, there could be a connection made. There's a project going on right now where this is actually kind of interesting to be involved in. So you have about a minute for the rest of you now to add in to this discussion. Go. All right, thank you. Thank you. Now you know how to do the basic process here, okay? So what we're going to start doing is we're going to start working our way around the team. So if Isabel did this time around, now it's Jenny's turn. Jenny's going to look basically an Adam's map. Circle something that intrigues her about Adam. Adam's going to take 30 seconds or so to share what this thing is for the rest of the group. And the rest of the group, we're going to spend about a minute to help either ask clarifying questions or go deeper or find other connections to see how we can push this thing further. All right, just like you did right now, but now we're working our way clockwise around the team. Any questions about this? It's okay to ask.
For smaller teams, you might have to repeat and like keep going down the circle.
That's right. What I'm going to do to keep the beat going is about every 90 to 120 seconds or so, I'm simply going to make a loud grunt-like noise from the stage, which sort of indicates it's time to move on to the next person. And I want you to work your way around. If it's possible, I'd like you to make 2 rotations on this map. So everybody's had a chance to do sort of 2 circles on their own map and to discuss it. So I'm gonna keep the beat, okay? And actually, I'm gonna do it a different way. Instead of doing grunt-like noise, I'm gonna have some music play in the background, but every 2 minutes or so, I'm gonna boost the volume up for like only 3 or 4 seconds, but that's an indication that, okay, it's time to shift. And then I'm gonna bring the music back down again.
Far more acceptable.
Yes. All right, let's go. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Yeah.
That worked.
Okay, first of all, give yourself a round of applause, okay? That was, it's really great to see you lean in on this exercise. Okay, so I'd love to hear some thoughts and comments, particularly around surprising conversations or insights that you might have gotten over these past 15 minutes. Yes. Yep, down there. So there's a microphone going your way. Can you raise it? When you want to raise your hands until it's filled with a microphone. Okay, great. Thank you. And stand up and maybe share your name as well.
Hey, here I am. I was kind of surprised at our table by all of us having kind of a unique connection to women and what's happening with women's vulnerability, building connections in the tech space, in the athletic space, storytelling, growing up in Alaska, just some really unexpected connections.
And what's your name?
My name's Sydney.
Thank you, Sydney.
Well, can I just ask a super quick question about that? How did that? When you say, were the rest of your team surprised as well? So this is stuff that is going on. Are you all from Juneau or in the region? No?
He's from Seattle.
Seattle. And what was this? Well, what was it that enabled this surprising insight to come out? Like, why are you aware of it now?
I actually am going to blame the guy. Not blame
the guy.
I'm just kidding. No, we asked him about a name of a place we were unfamiliar with, and he told us that that's where he went to school, and it launched an entrepreneurial business about creating safe spaces for women in the tech industry.
Okay, and it turns out that each and every one of you, when you're looking at in your research maps, are also addressing elements of this. It's quite amazing. This is the first piece. It's like this conversation lasted about 15, maybe 18 minutes, and once sort of these things get revealed in this way. Okay, let's keep going. Yeah.
I was just surprised by the diversity of the skill sets. Like at my table, I don't know about your table, and also the diversity of the interests. And I feel like just at this table alone, we could get a whole lot accomplished.
Excellent.
That's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, more.
Whoa. Hi, my name's Jess. At this table, I thought it was cool that Gary, we learned that he manages the lighthouse at Sentinel Island and that you can rent it out. And our table was like, oh my gosh, we all want to do that. And then I'm a teacher, and I was just really excited. I think I want to use this in class, like this activity, to do with kids, because it gives you a chance to be comfortable with what you're writing down, and then talk about it in a kind of scary way.
Isn't it interesting that you sat down next to a person essentially randomly? I mean, we tried to make it as random as possible when you guys came in, and somehow because of that minute conversation, you now are aware of this Centennial Lighthouse. Is that what it was called?
Yeah.
And what's possible to do with it. And yet it might have been technically available to understand or know. I'm sure there's on some website where one can get access to it. But that's not really how information always gets spread. It is through unexpected conversations. That's what this is trying to show. Yeah, more. Yes.
So I know the point was about connections, but what I think is fascinating about these sort of conversations is just kind of like the universe that exists inside individuals. Like, we all have our own thoughts and stuff, and then we rarely probe deeply into somebody else's life. And it was just really cool to hear everybody's stories.
And actually, it's not just about connections between people, it's connections that we make inside ourselves. We tend to be extremely diverse people, individuals, but when we adopt roles where either the roles themselves demanded or we voluntarily shed away, remove all these things that make us kind of different and unique, and we just focus in on, this is my work me, or this is the sports team me, or whatever it is. But actually, if we can truly tap into the complexity of who we are just far better off finding diverse connections because we're making use of it. There were a couple of other things. Okay, yeah, down there.
So I'm John, and I thought it was kind of neat sitting at this table. We got a CFO of one of the big corporations here in town. We've got a couple of entrepreneurs, university, just a group of people that wouldn't normally be together, and yet we found common ground in that among other things, we all love Alaska. And all of the different opportunities that there are to do here.
Any connection that stood out for you that you're like, whoa, that's interesting?
Well, we've got one person who is doing farming and doing it, here in town, sustainable hydroponics, and then we've got another person that is doing healthcare. Things to help people to work in the environment, skincare, and different things like that. And I just thought that it was an interesting dynamic as we were going around. And then the third one here with economic development and entrepreneurial. And so it was just this neat thing that we've got going here. People that are, just things that they have in common, but all the differences and how they could influence them as well.
Yeah, thank you. I know there was Juliana was. Who was it that stood out in your mind?
I had a couple. You guys had really, really insightful conversations, but I heard about candied salmon ice cream over here, and I think everyone should hear about this. So can I put you on the spot and have you share?
Copa. He's in the room. I saw him. There he is. Mark was the winner of the Alaska Symphony of Seafood last year with his product, candied salmon ice cream. So we have an event every year. This is going to be our 25th anniversary, and we have another local entry this year, Barnacle Foods Kelp Salsa.
Yeah,
so
sure.
It's very cool. It's a competition for new products made out of Alaska seafood, and it's going to be happening next week on Tuesday here in Juneau.
Thanks for the plug. And I heard another really interesting story. I'm going to put Melissa on the spot. So you're going to tell us how you landed in Juneau, because I thought it was awesome.
Well, I live in Anchorage right now. I was living in Florida and just kind of got bored because it's really hot and humid there, and came here and visited and never really left, but I actually drove here from Florida. So just my dog and I got in the car, took a road trip, and ended up here, stopped and saw some of the great monuments.
That's great.
Family in different areas, stopped at Mount Rushmore, and just kind of made it about my dog and I.
I'm going to Florida tomorrow. So.
It's really
But
warm.
I'm flying, though. So. All right, thank you, everybody, for sharing this. So look, Here's the thing. If we give ourselves just a moment to explore both ourselves, to comment we heard here, and each other, it turns out that there are far more connection points that we tend to believe exist. And that is how we can start making unique and create unique ideas. That is one of the ways in which you can actually purposefully explore intersections and diverse perspectives. But exploring intersections is one thing. Coming up with ideas is something else. And that's what I want to get to next. So here's what we're going to do. Let me just jump ahead a little bit. And what I want to do is I want to create some ideas with the resources that you have right now. And let me jump to another element that you saw yesterday, this particular story. Do you remember the hospital that borrowed insights and concepts from a pit stop crew in a Formula One car race to help improve how they delivered healthcare, essentially, to their patients, to do it in a safer way? Now, I'm going to ask you to do something similar here. We're going to do it in multiple rounds, not just with a pit stop. Here's how it's going to work. In just a second, I'm going to ask you within your team to pick an item, to pick an asset on your map, on your team maps, essentially, your various resource maps. And to make it simple, why don't we start at least with those that have been already circled, since you already know what they are. So you already covered this within your team. So pick something that's been circled. The more specific it is, the better. So in other words, if somehow the thing that you circled was the word happy, it's great, but it's not so easy to be specific about that. It's a fairly amorphous concept. If something else that was circled, which was, Glacier Valley, that's a very specific thing. Everybody can sort of get a visual image of what that thing is. So in the beginning, for the first 2 or 3 rounds, I want you to focus on those things that are as concrete as possible. Something that you can feel, you can sort of touch, or you can understand, you can get a visual representation of. Does that make sense to you? And what I want you to do is, I want you to pick one of those things, and let's do that now. You've circled it already. Let's pick something that's been circled already. You're going to work on it together as a team. And I'll give you another 5 seconds. Just pick it. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I think I'm just going to roll with it.
Got it. Everybody picked one? Great. Let's continue.
All right, great. So here's what I want you to do now. I want you to use the idea of a pit stop and combine it with this item that you picked to create a new idea. Okay, now, so what does this mean? What do we think about when we think about a pit stop? You can just yell out loudly the things that you think of. Cars, fuel, change tires, speed. What was that? Lots of people, teamwork. Fast. What was that? Renewal? Renewal.
Precision.
What?
Precision.
Precision. And you can go broader. So to get the pit stop, some of you might start thinking about Formula One in general. Maybe you start thinking about NASCAR. You can make leaps like that as well, okay? You don't have to stay completely confined. Pit stop is the starting point. Now, I want you to use these concepts and think about how can you combine them with the item that you circled to create a new idea. To create a new idea. I'm going to let you try this on, and then we'll see how I'm going to take a break, and we're going to see how it goes, see some of the ideas. Some of you will get it right away. Some of you may need a training round. That's okay. When you think of an idea, write it down next to the circle with using one of the pens. Just write it down on the sheet. Okay, here's the thing, and you just write it down on the sheet. Let's keep it simple. If you feel really good about it, and I haven't said stop yet, move on to another word. Move on to another item on the circle and intersect it with pit stop. But I'd Actually, you know what? Scratch that. What I'm going to ask you to do is simply come up with more ideas. You're going to start developing tons and tons of ideas around the word that you circled, the item that you circled, and pit stop. I just want you to focus on that for now. I'm going to give you about 2 to 3 minutes to do it. Come up with any ideas and write it down on the sheet.
So write it down with a pen so it differentiates itself from the marker.
Thank you.
And
Absolutely.
once you've come up with an idea, keep moving. Come up with another one. Come up with another one. Don't
That's
stick
great.
with one.
That's great.
Who wants to share? Ooh. I'm going to pick on someone. Okay, great. I see Julie.
So what was the word you circled?
So we circled wood.
Wood.
Stephanie is a wood carver. And so we had all sorts of great ideas for how we could do
Thank you. Let's take a listen here. Yeah.
how we could do speed carving. Maybe we have a lazy Susan with a bunch of tools around it, and so you spin it and you start working with a new tool, and then spin it again, you work with your next tool. You're going to need lots of fuel.
Speed carving. Okay, yeah.
Speed carving. So you get lots of fuel, so some food, some coffee, some beer to make this thing go. Techno music is going to be a must, so you have some good motivation while you're doing your speed carving. Maybe you have a team of people that help you carve, so you just like pass the block from person to person. And you could ship in different blocks of wood and have ideas that come shipped in.
Awesome. Round of applause for, thank you. Others. Right here? Yeah? Yeah. Oh, okay, yeah. Okay, here and here. Yeah.
So the word we circled was cabin, and we're thinking that this is not Airbnb, but it's working vacation B&B. So people could come, use your second home or your cabin for free. They get pre-approved ahead of time on what they're going to work on, maintenance-wise, but they can also vacation at the same time.
Wait,
so
work on?
Work on my cabin.
Wait, I love this idea. Oh my God. Yeah. It's like, I really want to do some work. Yeah, well, you can work on my cabin.
They can use the cabin and the skiff, but they
sure.
have a maintenance project while they're there. And we could spread this over.
I love this idea. Okay, great. Round of applause. Thank you.
Introduce yourself.
Okay, I'm Charla Brown, and I'm a professor at the university in the business department. And we picked Scott's got a nonprofit organization that he works on called the Alaska Travel Institute Industry Association, and they get money from the state to market Alaska, kind of like Hawaii markets Hawaii, et cetera. And they've gone from 13 million to 3. Yeah, it's bad. Fuel's bad. So with the pit stop analogy, we talked about fuel being important to increase those marketing dollars. Just much like a pit stop has specialized individuals who come in, that's the one thing they do. We talked about maybe having his team specialized. One could do cruise, one could do airline, one could do lodging, etc. And then we talked about, pit stop teams probably look at other pit stops teams to see how they are doing and why they're better. And so one of the things he could do is look at how Hawaii markets Hawaii and Michigan markets Michigan and get some competitive analysis information from that.
Excellent. Thank you.
Thank
Round of
you.
applause. Okay. We're going to do this again now. And here's what's going to happen. Okay. I want you to quickly pick another word on your map. Do it now. 5 seconds. Pick another item. 3, 2, 1. All right, pick. And I want you to intersect it just like you did with the pit stop. I want you to intersect it with fashion. Get going now. And write down your ideas as you think of them. And we're not going to do this. I'm going to switch it up with some frequency. Again, just like last time, when I boost the volume, it means that we're now I'm switching the image on the screen. I want you to pick another word, and you're going to intersect it with something else that shows up on the screen. So hopefully you all capture the ideas on the sheet. Now I want you to pick another word. And by the way, at some point you may run out of words that have been circled. What do you do then? Stop. Yeah, no, you keep going. You pick another word that may not have been circled, and you just work your way through the map. But what I want you to do is now pick a word. Do that now.
A new one.
And I want you to intersect it with Netflix. Give yourself a round of applause. Okay, give yourself a round of applause. Would love to hear some ideas
Awesome. Sierra.
of any of these, of any of the ones that we went through.
We want to share two because we had a
Okay.
really good time. You asked us to connect, or what was the one that we connected that with? Oh, Netflix. And we had chosen design in the context of restaurants, just because somebody at our table works in restaurants. And so we thought, what does Netflix do? Like it takes information about what you like and recommends things. So imagine an app where you go on and you take like a little personality quiz. This is what I like to eat. I like Thai, I like Indian. And then restaurants upload their menus to that app. So when I walk into a restaurant, this app registers that I'm there. It knows this restaurant's menu, and it makes recommendations based on what it knows I already like.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, round of applause for that.
Oh, and then, yeah, if you have allergies, it'll tell you, like, don't eat this, you'll die.
It's a good
and
thing.
then the second idea we had was a little more fun. You asked us to connect spa, and we were talking about mountain biking. And we went all over the place with this, but we thought about there's no like spa-like products for peak performance. If I'm stressed, I'm gonna go and buy a million aromatherapy things, right? For stress, for sleep, for romance, or whatever. But there's nothing like peak performance. Like, I wanna have a really good workout, so I'm gonna put on this perfume, or I'm gonna put on these gloves, or, some kind of body product. That was just fun.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you for sharing. Yeah,
So we connected being a parent and Uber because we were talking about how parents do a lot of great services for the other fellow parents in their community, and it's usually unpaid. And so we started off just with like carpooling. If you could have an app where it's like, I schedule to pick everybody's kids up on Wednesday, Gretchen does it on Thursdays, or somebody picks up from swim lessons. And then we started thinking about food or meal preparation services, or somebody who does all the shopping, that's your part-time job. I think a lot of parents already do that, and it's unpaid, so it'd be kind of cool to be able to schedule it and pay for it, turn it into a business.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Down here.
Hi, I'm Gary. I work with the Aleutian Privilege Island Community Development Association. We have, it was costly and Uber. It's really costly to be able to get people in and out of the Aleutians. It'll cost us $10,000 sometimes to charter a plane because the airlines are so not as predictable at times, and we have an urgent need, or $3,000 to get a plant worker to some of our plants. But the Fluber thing, kind of give you credit for that one, would be where you have these planes flying over at the remote locations, and so you have an app that would say, this charter service happens to be flying over your area. Is there and there's an open seat. If you're flying from Anchorage to Dutch Harbor, you're flying over Nelson Lagoon, which happens to be one of our communities, and you need to get to Dutch Harbor. You pull up your Fluber, and request the seat. And if there's an opportunity for that charter service to land and pick you up, the charter service has sold the seat because in our case, we charter a $10,000 plane with 9 seats. We're selling them for $1,000 a piece if we can. So we're making our calls around to our partners and saying, hey, we're going to Attica. Do you need to get to Attica because we'd love to sell you a seat because we don't want to spend $10,000 on this plane. So that the charter service, I believe, would be able to benefit from that too because they want to sell that $1,000 seat too.
Sure. Excellent. Thank you.
Hi, Rachel from Visit Sitka and Sitka Chamber. We had already chosen naturopathic medicine, and then you flashed fashion. So we quickly wanted to change, but we didn't. So we looked at what can you do with your clothing and still be fashionable. The copper bands and knee braces, actually making that into a fashionable item of clothing, something that would allow your meridians to communicate. having pressure points, maybe in your lower back. If you're working at a chair all the time, your clothing already have that in there. Smart clothes that measure your heartbeat, allow you to kind of get that reading a lot like that app that we looked at yesterday. Crystals and jewelry and bionic jewelry was one of our ideas. So,
what's bionic jewelry?
It was him. Where are you? Lee. Hey, I was just the scribe.
Yeah. No, it's all, that's great. Thank you. Thank you for, you said something there that I just want to make a point of. So this is a sliver of a glimpse of a sliver of how we actually run this when we help organizations ideate. But one key piece around it is that our instinct is that when we see something, like in this context, how we did it here, putting up stuff on a screen, we usually use other means to do this, but like fashion, you want to go, wait, we have a better thing. We have something that's like fashion. And then you're like, fashion combined with fashion is fashion. So, like super fashion, which is the bikini and sandy beach. Like, we want to go to the bikini and sandy beach because that's what makes sense. When we're forced, the toughest ones, those that have the most impact tend to be those that look the most impossible when you look at it at first. And you go, there is no way this connects. And then you work it, and you work it. And then somehow you can make the connection. And all of a sudden, that particular idea is likely to be very innovative because it's just such an unusual connection. This is fantastic. Everybody, round of applause again. I'm really happy with the ideas here. So, okay, look. But coming up with many ideas is cool. Can you pursue all of them? Yes or no? Yes or no? No? Okay, good. That's the right answer. See, and you shouldn't. So you have to make a selection. You have to make a selection. I'm going to make sure we're good on time here. We have to make a selection. And it's not obvious how to select ideas. I mean, I said yesterday that innovation, a fundamental fact of innovation, a foundational fact is that it's hard to predict what's going to work. So how are you supposed to select ideas if you have a hard time predicting what's going to work? Do you see the challenge here? Right? I'm going to give you about 90 seconds to, within your team, and you can get a clean sheet of paper for this. All I want you to do is write down your top 3 or 4 selection criteria of an innovative idea. So, like, if somebody comes to you with an innovative idea, or if you think of an innovative idea yourself, like we just did in this room, how do you know which ones to select? What would be sort of the key criteria we should use in selecting innovative ideas? Get going. I'll give you about 1 minute for that. Do so now. Work within your team.
Anyone needs new papers? Okay.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Tell me, what are some of the things that you came up with? Just, what was that? Location? Time. What do you mean by time? Do you have the time to create it? Yeah? Different. Oh, the team. Team composition itself?
Somebody who has the passion.
Got it. Yeah?
Does it fill a need or does it solve a problem?
Where is does it fill a need? Does it solve a problem?
Available resources.
Available resources.
I see market size.
Market size. Is it, where is it? Is it accessible? First of all, great. I like some of these answers. You paid attention yesterday, right? Some of this stuff is where I often see people go to, and I'm sure you have this on there, are things like, say, a version of ROI. How many of you had a version of ROI? Like payoff, impact,
Return on investment.
Return on investment. Yeah, that's good. Our instinct is to go to that. Our instinct is to go to looking at these type of metrics. But those type of metrics are challenging to use when you don't even know if the idea is going to be successful. I like to point out the story of Google. You know that 9 months after Sergey Brin and Page founded Google, they realized they had to make a choice. They could choose to either focus on Google or go back to the PhD studies at Stanford. And they chose to go back to the PhD studies at Stanford. So they took Google and they went to Yahoo and said, you can have it for $1 million. And Yahoo ran the numbers and came to the conclusion that it wasn't worth it. It's true. And someone could laugh and say, well, Yahoo obviously didn't know what they were talking about. But if you say that, you also have to say that the founders of Google didn't know what they were talking about, because they were willing to sell it for $1 million. So, I mean, neither the founders of Google nor Yahoo, which was the leading search engine at the time, really understood what Google was worth. And this is 9 months after it had been created. I have people that will, after 5 minutes, say, this is interesting, but what's the ROI? How possible is it to even know after 5 minutes? And the reason why it's difficult has to do with this. One, logic will not help you stand out. Somebody mentioned difference. Difference is a great way of thinking about prioritizing ideas. Most of the other ways that we think about it tend to sort of, again, create the Volvo Audi example. We tend to create ideas that are similar to others. The idea will change. So if you're going to evaluate YouTube, if that's a good or a bad idea, are you evaluating the dating site that they started with or the video sharing site that they ended up with? Which one are you evaluating? It's hard to know when you're starting out, right? Later on, it's easy once the story is done. But when you're starting out, you're not sure what the idea is going to actually end up as. An idea is subjective. Right now, right at this moment, if you describe your idea if your team decides to split apart and describe this idea to somebody else in this room, you're going to do a different job at it. Some of you are going to be like, oh my God, this is the most amazing thing ever. It's like peanut butter wrapped in seaweed or something. And somebody else might say, well, it's kind of like an idea. Both of these two descriptions of this idea will lead to different valuation of this idea. We need something else. This is what I like to use and push towards. Uniqueness, difference, excitement, discomfort. It's a good thing. If you're uncomfortable, discomfort is a positive sign for innovative potential. Surprise, are you surprised by it? And then yes, somewhere along the line, scalability, impact, strategic fit, and so on, they're part of it. But they shouldn't lead it in the early phase of an innovative idea. Become trapped by this narrative. And that's why diverse teams are actually better at selecting ideas. We didn't talk about this yesterday. I didn't have a chance to get through this. But when you have in a diverse team, people are looking at the same idea from different lenses. And they're using different types of evaluation criteria. They have different relationships to what this idea could be. And because of that reason, you're able to better tease out if this idea has potential. So what I'd like you to do now is, in the next minute or two, I want you to look at the plethora of ideas that you have on your chart, and I want you to pick one. I want you to pick one, and then I want you to take a minute to make sure that you can clarify, so you're on the same page with your team what this idea is. So you can say, we're going to pick this idea. Okay, all right, then you have to remind yourself first, well, what's this idea? Oh yeah, it was that thing, and we decided to do that, and then you build it out a bit. But I want you to pick one idea, and then I want you to sort of flesh it out. I'm going to give you a couple of minutes to do that. Go ahead. All right, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Merci. Tack. Awesome. You have an idea now within your team. You're all on the same page about what that idea is. So in a second, I'm going to ask you to do the following. I'm going to ask you to stand up and split apart as a team. And I want you to pair up with somebody else in this room, not another team member, but somebody else, and preferably somebody that you don't know or it's been a long time since you had a chance to connect with. And here's what I want you to do. So let's model this out. Can we have somebody from this team stand up? Okay. And could you come over? Let's say you come over. Are you two separate teams here? Oh, so let's make it easy. And then let's say that just don't match up completely like this, okay? I mean, try to spread in the room. But just stand up, stand up, stand up. And then somebody from this team stand up. Okay? And meet over here. Say hi and greetings to each other. See? And now, here's what I'd like you to do. I would like you to explain your team's idea to you. And then you are going to help improve it. And then, after having done that for about 2.5 minutes, so roughly, I want you to explain your team's idea. And then you're going to help improve it. All right? And I'm gonna play a little bit of music in the background. When I drive up the volume, it's an indication that now the other person should talk about their team's idea. Okay? All right, so any questions? It's fairly straightforward. I want you to, so here's the thing. When I say stand up, by the way, don't within your team say, okay, I'll be all set, I'll be all good, do you know what's going on? Okay, now we stand up. Because by the time you do that, everybody was matched up and it's just you left. Okay, so I need you all to stand up at the same time and match up with somebody else. Pair up with somebody else in the room. Stand
Walk
up now and
around.
pair up, go.
Find someone you don't necessarily know or is part of your immediate circle.
So here's what I'd like you to do. And we're gonna have to speed this up. I'm sorry, we're gonna go over just a few minutes. Hopefully that is okay. I just want to wrap this last piece up just a little bit. When you reassemble within your team, like the Avengers, then share within the team the things that you've learned and how to improve this idea. So see if you can go around and quickly sort of get the gist of here's what I heard, and see how you can improve the idea. Do so now. Thank you. I'd love to get a couple of thoughts, actually. Let's start with what happened when you split apart and talked with somebody else in this room and then came back as a team again. I know you only had like 3 or 4 minutes to share, but did a pattern emerge? Yes, there's a hand down there. Yes.
I just said it was clarifying, and you to translate the information to somebody else, you just had to know it better.
So it was clarifying to sort of transfer information to somebody else, because you have to be clear about what it is in your own head. This is a huge point, by the way. And that's the first one that we mentioned. This cannot be understated. Oftentimes we have ideas in our own heads. But when they sit there, we believe they're far more kind of developed than they actually are. But when you're forced to tell somebody else, all of a sudden the looseness of it is forced you to get tightened up. So that's one thing. Another point, yeah.
I think that we must all came back having had good conversations because we came back to the table with different perspectives on the ideas we were already talking about.
Isn't that interesting? Mm-hmm. So, and would you say those perspectives, I mean, given that you had 3-4 minutes to discuss it, did they enhance the idea that you had, or?
I think it was, yeah, definitely enhancing upon what we had already talked about.
For how many of you is this true? That it's sort of, you get a sense that when you had a chance to talk to people in the room, you came back and you felt like you had like some stuff that could make this idea better. You know, when we work on stuff, we tend to, this is how it often tends to go. We tend to really sit with it. And we don't really tend to share until it is just, I mean, we worked on it a lot and it's kind of perfect and we made it look really nice. And then we share it. But then when we share it, we feel we almost leave ourselves open for not being all that open to get the feedback we get because we worked on it so much. What we encourage all our clients to do is to get insight as early as possible. Get an idea, focused, and then share it because you're going to get insight, and it can happen quickly. The sharing, I let sort of Ed Sheeran play in the background for about 4 minutes. That's the amount of time it took to get insight for somebody else. Yes?
I saw a challenge in our group. We've got 6 people here, and we all went out and talked to somebody else. And then when we came back, the first couple of people that shared their insights, all of a sudden the group dives in on it and says, well, yeah, you could take this guy's idea and do this.
Yeah.
We never got around to talking about what all the 6 insights were that people got because we launched off of the first couple that came in.
It's almost like, it's almost like these comments are being structured. They're not, but this is another great insight around how we think about ideation. Don't have really much time to dig into it deeply. What I will say is this. Let's say that you sit down and you say, we're going to ideate, we're going to brainstorm, or whatever term you want to use. And here's how it almost always works. All right, well, here's an idea. Oh, this is a great idea. And everybody focuses in on that. You've only gotten like 2 or 3 going. As you saw, I didn't really want you to do that when we went through the images on the screen. I wanted you to just keep on going and ideating. Ideating. It wasn't about making those judgments early on. This is a human instinct to dive into something that makes sense right away. We're better off. We're better off using sort of a different approach. It's almost like a batch approach. You know, when you do something, you collect a pool of ideas first. We often encourage teams to collect sometimes 100, 50 to 100. Then you shrink it down to maybe 6. But you haven't made the decision, but you just go from, say, 50 to 10, 10 to 5, 5 to 2. So this is how you sort of are working it. In each step, you try to get new perspectives on these ideas that you honed in on. It's easy for us to want to dive into the first thing that makes sense. But the first thing that makes sense might not be the most innovative. There's lots more to share here. I'm run out of time, unfortunately. But what I will say is this. It's been, first of all, thank you for inviting me to Juneau, to Alaska. It's been fantastic to work with you yesterday and today. I just had such a phenomenal time at it. You guys are a great group. Brian was asking me, well, give us some feedback on how this event, like how does this event kind of stack up to the thousands of other events that I've seen around the world. And I told them, actually, I was very pleasantly surprised. I think this is a very solid event that's been put together because it does many of the things that I love to see, which is it encourages people to connect, encourages people to make connections and make use of those connections they already have. I am unfortunately going to have to leave in just about a minute. Juliana is going to stay here, though, so if you are looking to have any other conversations or want to follow up, whether it's things that you want to sort of dig more deeply into, seek her out while she's here, and we can sort of maybe start a dialogue with our office. But I want to say thank you. You've been a great audience. Thank you very much. Thank you. Oh. Appreciate it.
That's so nice. That's so beautiful.
We're not going to let you leave without we have a, Juliana, please come up here. We have just some nice, small, little local Alaskan gifts for you. Thanks for making the trip, and thank you, Juliana, as well, for coming up. We got 2 members of the team. Great impact on our organization. Now I'm struggling with, what do we do next year, guys? This is really intense. So thank you for your time and dedication. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Hey, thank you.